Okay, so let's start with a bit of grammar review. And this is, I've limited this to 8 issues, 8 small issues from the last assignment. I noticed that most of these people aren't here. Oh, there's a few more, so maybe they'll need to watch the recording. Okay, so the first one that came up, and it wasn't just Myra, it was a couple other people too. This comes up once in a while. So you'll see a sentence like this. Nowadays, this is a comparison issue. Nowadays, most people prefer to live in urban areas than rural areas because of the facilities that urban areas can provide. So when you use than, T-H-A-N, it needs to be more than, less than, fewer than, greater than, smaller than. It has to be this kind of comparison word. So if you change this to more, it would be okay. More people prefer to live in urban areas than in rural areas. Then it's fine. But if you need to keep most, people live in rural areas rather than in rural areas. That's the way to do it. Okay, so it's going to be most. Okay. I've got a run-on sentence here, but Myra's not here, so we'll skip that one. Parallelism is something some of you might not have heard me talk about. Parallel structure. Does everyone know the word parallel?
No.
Parallel means things that are moving in the same line. So train tracks are parallel.
Okay.
Parallel structure means that when you're making a list, all the items in the list need to be the same grammatical construction, which is determined by the first item in the list. So if we've got something like this, as individuals, simple actions such as walk, bicycling, plant more trees, and carpooling are good ways to help solve this problem. So we were talking about pollution. So walk is a verb. Well, go for a walk. Walk can be a noun too. But if you're talking about the physical act of walking, so it needs to be walking, just like this person is bicycling, just like they have carpooling. So these all have to be the same structure. Planting more trees. Whoops, that shouldn't be struck through. And carpooling. Okay, so when you're making a list, all the items in the list need to be the same structure. Safa's here. Okay, how are you doing, Safa? I believe your mute is on. Okay, I guess Safa stepped away. Dina, are you there?
Yes.
Good morning, how are you doing?
Morning.
Good. Okay, so we had a participle issue and then a verb issue in this one. This is yours here. So you've got, this is because when gasoline-powered cars are operated, there is lots of fumes. People talk like this, and informally, when you're speaking, you can often get away with this, but because it's plural, this needs to be
Yes, are.
Yeah. So be like, there is one good reason for doing this. And then you give that reason. Okay. Here.
Emitted?
Yes. Do you know why? Or can you explain
Yes.
why?
No, yes. Because a lot of the fumes which are emitted.
Yes.
So if we take it off, it will be emitted, yeah.
So to figure out if it's the passive or the active version, it helps to transform the participle into the full verb. And so now, combustion engines into the air. There are lots of fumes that. Okay, so let's say you're confused if this needs to be passive or active. How do you figure this out? Does everyone know what I'm talking about when I say active voice, passive voice? Rabbi, do you know what I mean?
In French, I know it, but in English, can you explain a little bit?
Yep. So we have passive and active verbs. I'll start with active voice. Use this example because it's really simple. The bakers bake the bread at 5 a.m. The bread is baked at 5 a.m. That's passive. Okay, do you know what this refers to? So here you're starting with the agent of the verb. The bakers do the baking, right? What do they bake? They bake the bread.
The bread.
So this is your object. But you can put the object at the beginning of the sentence if you want to.
Okay.
So we just move the bread down to here. So we have to change the verb form to passive voice now. If you start with the object, then it's called passive voice. And then you have to change the verb to is baked. This is not past tense. This is still present tense, present simple, passive voice. Okay, so it's not a tense. We call it voice. And this one is also passive voice. We also have, so these are verbs, but we also have passive and active adjectives. And we call an active voice adjective an active participle. We have passive voice adjective, which is called a passive participle. A lot of grammar books call these present and past, but they have nothing to do with present and past tense. So an active participle would be something like the amazing singer. And a passive participle would be the amazed crowd. These are both adjectives. Do you understand why one is ing and one is ed?
No. And the question is for me?
Yeah.
Ing is present, ed is past.
So these are not present and past. These are active and
Active
passive.
and passive. Okay, active and passive.
How about this example? This is another classic example. A little bit not nice to teachers, but hey, it's true. Let's go like this. The boring lesson. And then passive would be the bored students. This is, again, this is an adjective here.
Mm.
And then here, it's another adjective, the bored students. What's the difference between these two?
The difference in the, are you speaking about the time or the?
There's no time information here because these are adjectives.
It's the same. It's the same things. Active and passive. And boring lesson, bored students.
So if the lesson is the cause, then you use the active form with ing.
Mm-hmm.
See, the students are not the cause of boredom. If the students are the recipient, or if the boredom happens to them, then you use the passive form. Just like here, the amazing singer, the singer that is amazing, the fact that something is amazing comes from the singer, right? Whereas here, the crowd is not responsible for being amazing. The crowd is amazed, right? The crowd receives the action or experiences the action.
Mm.
Okay. So here, there are lots of fumes emitted. It's down here. There are lots of fumes that, so if we want to figure out if we need the active or passive participle, whether it's emitting or emitted, transform it into the full version. There are lots of fumes that, would this be emit or are emitted? Which one?
Are emitted.
Because what does the emitting? The fumes or the engine?
Fumes.
The engine.
The engine emits the fumes, right? Not the fumes emit the engine.
That means we put are emitted.
That's right. Okay. Okay. Any questions about active or passive, either verbs or participles? Okay. A few people had this sentence here. To address this issue, it will take the work of the government and individuals alike to make a difference. This is acceptable, but there's a nicer way to do it. If you just get rid of it, because it doesn't mean anything, right? This is like when you say a sentence like "it is sunny," what does it mean?
The is sunny.
Yeah. Or what about if I say "it's nice to meet you"? What does it mean here?
Like a meeting? Or
It doesn't mean anything.
yeah.
This is called a dummy subject. Okay, like there are 5 people in this room, or there are many things to do. That's another type of dummy construction. Again, it doesn't mean anything. It just preserves that subject, verb, noun order. So you can just get rid of it here and use the infinitive as your subject. To address this issue, we'll take the work of the government and individuals alike to make a difference. And the other way to do it is to use the gerund form, addressing this issue. We'll take the work of government and individuals alike to make a difference. And just get rid of it. Right, and last point, several people struggled with the best verb to use in this situation. So the verb is implement. And implement means put into action. So overall, the main offender is the widespread use of fossil fuel due to the pollution it brings, yet there are many solutions that the government and people can implement to address this. Okay, so implement a solution.
Hello?
Hi. Perfect timing.
Yeah, on implement.
Okay. Good. Any questions about anything we covered?
Actually, I
Mr.
left
Yan,
my, my
regarding the previous sentence, to address this issue, can we say to address this issue will? It will be the subject?
So how do you want to, can you tell me the full sentence you want to do?
لا, you said there is 2 options. Okay, addressing this issue is okay, but when we
Oh.
start with to address, it can be a subject?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not that common, but it's correct.
Okay. Yeah.
When you say, I love to ski. So to ski is an infinitive. It's a big noun, right? I love what? I love to ski, or I love skiing. So you have 2 options, but the infinitive form is much less common. This one's just use the gerund.
Okay.
Fixing this problem will take the work of government and individuals alike. Right? Dealing with this challenge will take the work. Let me write those down because they're pretty good sentences. Dealing with this issue will take the work of individuals and government alike. Dealing with this issue, addressing this problem, addressing this issue. So you can use addressing as a substitute for dealing and solving. Now we can do fixing this problem. So addressing can go there instead of any of these. Solving, dealing, fixing, addressing. These are all synonyms. Okay. Any other questions?
kind of can we go back just for a sentence fragment? Me and Ala, we did.
Okay, there you are. All right, Safa. So can you tell me why this is a fragment? So if you ever see me put SF on your writing, that means sentence fragment. It means it's not a sentence, it's part of a sentence.
Okay, a study conducted at the University of Toronto in February. Okay. Should I put by instead of at, like a study conducted by the University of Toronto?
Yeah, it changes the meaning a little bit. We can change it, but that's not going to fix the problem. Okay. Safa, can you tell me about this sentence?
The police
What's the main verb?
revealed.
Good. So when we're analyzing a sentence, you want to start by finding the main verb. What's the police?
The police, the noun or the people,
Sub.
who did that verb.
Subject.
Yes, it's the subject. This is our verb. What is this thing here? What is this construction starting with that called?
Noun.
Noun clause. From the previous lesson, what does a clause have? What is a clause? This is really important.
Subject, verb, and predicate.
Complete sentences, subject, verb, object.
Well, it has a subject plus a predicate.
Yeah.
And predicate just means verb plus whatever. Right? I love pizza. Love pizza is my predicate. Very important. A clause contains a subject and a verb minimum. So a study conducted by the University of Toronto in February 2010, this is your subject, right? So I'll just do it like this just to be consistent. Okay, so far so good? This is your subject. It's a big subject, but it's the same as the police in this one. Revealed is our verb. And now we move on to our noun clause. What's different between your noun clause and this example noun clause? What's the difference?
Actually, was responsible, and in my sentences there is no verb.
Exactly. So your noun clause doesn't have a predicate.
Okay.
Any suggestions for fixing that?
The record number was increased
It's going to be awkward.
Reveal that the record number.
We're gonna change this to A.
Okay.
Where would be a good place to put your verb? I think there's one word in here that you should replace with a verb.
Record number, I will take off out and put the verb. The record, that a record number corrected or increased or
Well, I think you're trying too hard. This is what you're talking about, a record number of new immigrants, right?
Mhm.
What's the relationship between a record number of new immigrants and Greater Toronto?
like the number of immigrants increase in Toronto. Like
I would put a verb in
Living.
here.
Living.
Yes, or
around. Okay. 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 Got it.
okay. So that's there's another way to do it, but this is the most direct approach. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you've got this noun clause, it has to be a clause. It has to start with that. Then the rest of it is going to be a sentence on its own. He was responsible for a crime. That he was responsible for the crime. Okay, and Allah, here's one of yours, another SF, and I think
Yeah.
this is the last one we're doing.
Encouraging people to drive so I'm missing subject here.
Well, for the new people, if we talk about a sentence, another way of calling a sentence is an independent clause. So we talked about a clause here, a noun clause, but a clause is not necessarily a sentence. We have independent clauses, and an independent clause is a sentence, but you can also have lots of dependent clauses, like relative clauses, subordinate clauses, noun clauses, and these are not sentences on their own, even though they do have a subject and a verb. But a sentence is an independent clause, which means here we're talking about a subject and a verb plus whatever. So a subject and a predicate that make sense by themselves as a sentence. So what are you missing in here that makes this not a sentence? I'll always start by identifying the main verb, because the main verb controls the relationships between the other parts of the sentence. So what's your main verb in here?
Encouraging. Drive.
Remember, if an ing word is a verb, what must it have in front of it? This confuses a lot of people. They see ing and they think it's a verb, but ing does not mean that something is a verb. What are our different options? If you see ing, what might it be? It might be a verb, But then what does it always have in front of it?
In front of it, there is should have a noun. Auxiliary.
Right? I am studying. We are shopping. We have been talking. These are, so the have been, am, are, these are all auxiliaries. So ing verbs always, always, always have this kind of auxiliary, or it's not a verb. It's something different. So an ing word can also be a gerund, which is a noun. So it'd be something like, biking is my favorite hobby. Okay. This is the, doesn't like the Canadian version or the English version. So biking is a noun here, right? What is my favorite hobby? Biking is my favorite hobby. And our last option is that it's participle, which is an active, or it'll be an active adjective in this case. The ing form gives you an active adjective. So it'll be like, she is an amazing singer. You have an here, so singer is the noun, but this is an adjective. So what would this be? Encouraging people to drive electric cars. What is the grammatical function of this chunk of text?
Encouraging that by people, the government or someone should encourage the people.
Safa, one more time.
Encouraging, like a verb done by a people.
Mm-hmm.
Someone should encourage the people to do. Like, same like a participle, but passive, not active.
Okay, let's have a look. Let's see what happens. Someone should encourage people. Whoops. Should.
Government should.
Or the government should encourage people to drive electric cars, trains, and bicycles for transportation inside the city. Yeah, that's a solution. So now she's got a verb, you've got a subject, and then the rest of it is okay.
So I'm missing like subject in the first one, right?
Well, no, the whole thing is a subject.
Oh, so no verb.
You've got no predicate at all. So I wrote this sentence here, helping people get healthy. You could put helping people to get healthy, that's okay too. Helping people to get healthy is a doctor's main job. This here is the subject. This is your verb, and this is just the object, right? Or in this case, it's a complement, same thing. So your whole sentence was just this part, and this is just the subject. So you would need Predicate. And yes, Safa, so the government should encourage people to drive electric cars. Or you could do the passive version of this, right?
Yeah.
What would be the passive version of this?
The government were encouraged.
No.
People.
Yeah, you got to start with people, right? When you're transforming active to passive, you got to flip it around. The bakers bake the bread is baked by the bakers.
People encouraged to drive
Are
electric.
Are encouraged.
People.
Where?
What about the should? People should.
Drive.
What's the passive of should encourage?
Shouldn't.
Being.
Good. You can read my lips.
Should be encouraged.
There you go. And you don't need to say by the government, right? It's obvious that that's what we're talking about. The government should encourage people. People should be encouraged. Okay, so these are the major issues, and we're going to talk about these over and over and over again. So it's fragments, run-ons, and participle issues come up all the time. If these are issues for you, and you see that I frequently indicate that there are fragments and run-ons in your work, then I urge everyone to have like a personal editing checklist of things that you're always looking for. So these are the killers. These are the three biggest killers, not just on IELTS, but in grammar in general. Run-on sentences, fragments, subject-verb agreement. Wrong participle is basically the same as subject-verb agreement. If those are your issues, then when you're done your writing, you need to look for each of those issues separately. When you're beginning, when you're learning something new, the brain can't handle looking for multiple issues at the same time. It's too complicated. You need to edit your work looking for each of these issues separately. Okay, look for one type of problem at a time. Okay, and don't look for more than 2 or 3 problems. It's just going to be frustrating. Just pick your top 1, 2, or 3 problems that you want to fix every time. You say to yourself, okay, my goal for this essay is to have no fragments, or my goal is to have no run-ons, or my goal is just to make sure that there's subject-verb agreement. Allah for you might be, make sure I don't make any of those mistakes with S at the end of a verb. So not he like, but he likes. The government not need to, the government needs to. Right? One problem at a time, and you'll make quick progress. Try and look for too many things at the same time, it's just going to be confusing. Okay. We do have one run-on here that we didn't talk about. Let's just take a moment. According to it's Statistics Canada, it's always the plural. For the name Statistics Canada. The number of immigrants in Toronto increases around 100 to 150,000 per year. Consequently, tens of thousands of new cars on the road each year. So this is a run-on sentence. How do you know this is a run-on sentence? How do you know?
I put it to punctuation between 2 independent clauses.
Mm-hmm. If you have two independent clauses, what can you not separate them with?
Switch.
That's-
Sorry, comma.
That's right, you can't put a comma between these. You need a period or, in this case,
Period or link with
I think dot, yes.
good. What type of word is consequently?
I know the meaning, but like the consequence.
conjunction.
Conjunctive adverb.
Adverb. It's the same as therefore, moreover.
Furthermore.
All of these work the same way. They're not all adverbs necessarily, but they all function the same way. So you need a comma afterwards. So you can't use a conjunctive adverb to join two sentences together. You can use it, this is a common usage, semicolon, conjunctive adverb, comma. This is an easy way to add a variety of sentence structures to your work. If you have a conjunctive adverb, actually we forgot the most common one is probably however. Put a semicolon, conjunctive adverb, comma, but we're still missing something here because the second part of the sentence, I really should have put ROS plus SF because it's really both of these issues here. Double trouble. Tens of thousands of new cars on the road each year. Is there a verb in here?
No.
So how do we fix that part?
Are
Where should I put the R?
new cars are on.
Very nice. Very nice. What would be the dummy subject version of that? You can use a dummy construction here. I'm going to use the same verb.
There are.
That's it. And just like with it's raining or it's nice to meet you, there are does not mean anything. That's why it's called a dummy subject. It's just to preserve that subject, verb, noun order. There are many people away from work today. Okay. There are thousands of new cars on the road every year. Okay, any questions about this point? For today's topic, I'm going to change things up a little bit. We talked about causes and solutions last time. So this essay is 2 questions, 2 answers, and the structure is exactly the same as causes and solutions. The question looks like this. Rising populations and constantly expanding urban centers are causing the disappearance of many places of natural beauty. What are the benefits of protecting these places? How can this problem be solved? So instead of asking about the causes of this, they've simply put in another question here. What are the benefits? The second part is the same. How can this problem be solved? So the first step, and this not coincidentally or coincidentally, A, B, C, D, E makes it easy to remember this process. First step is always analyzing the question, because people lose lots of marks by not giving IELTS the answer they expect, by only answering part of the question, or people reinterpret the question and change it up a bit. We just want to give them exactly what they're asking for. So what do we have to talk about in this question? What do we have to talk about?
Organization, like land degradation, what is that? Like destroying like gardens or something to.
No. So we have to talk about the benefits, advantages of maintaining these to the of protecting natural, yeah. And
First of all, like saving environment.
But specifically, places of natural beauty. What are places of natural beauty? It's a very vague term. It's a very general term, rather. What would be an example of a place of natural beauty?
Fall, Niagara Fall. Could be.
Okay, could be Niagara Falls. That's maybe a little bit too specific.
Yeah, forest.
Yeah.
Deserts.
Deserts. I don't
Usage.
think. I
Yeah,
doubt.
it is hot. Nothing there.
Yeah, I doubt they're talking about deserts. I don't think anyone would be sad to see them go away, if that were possible. Forests, you can say natural parks, maybe, national parks.
Gardens.
Lakes.
Probably jungles. But they're talking specifically about places of natural beauty. So,
Okay.
so forests is probably just the best example of that. Jungles, like the Amazon rainforest. Right, the lung, this just popped into my head.
What they call these places where they put animal there and they live freely. I don't know what's the name in English.
Natural reserves.
Yes.
Reservations or reserves. Okay. And the second part is, how can this problem be solved? But they're telling you what the cause of the problem is, right?
Yes.
So what are they saying is the cause of the problem?
Rising population.
And?
Expanding urban centers.
Urban.
Yeah. Yes. So that's what you have to talk about. You can't give another reason for their disappearance. That your solution has to deal with these causes of the problem. So unlike a causes and solutions essay here, they're just giving you the causes. They're saying, how would you solve these particular causes of the problem?
We cannot say how to solve it by prohibit, I mean, protect about how to protect these places?
Mhm. Yes, but you have to talk about
We have to mention about this one. Yeah.
exactly. All right, so let's talk about how are rising populations and expanding urban centers, how are they leading to the destruction of these places of natural beauty, right? So what do we call that process? Expanding urban centers, there's one word for that that we talked about the last couple classes.
Urbanization?
Yeah. Okay. So in Ontario, what has the government done to protect kind of these natural, beautiful places that we have in Ontario? Because Southern Ontario has really among the best farmland in the world, just the best soil for farming, especially when you get closer to Niagara. That's why they have all those vineyards there, all those fruit orchards there. But when the city expands, we lose all that farmland. So what has the government of Ontario kind of put around the Greater Toronto area? What do you wear around your pants?
Belt.
Belt. Yeah. It's called a green belt, and if you drive on the highway, you'll see signs once in a while. Once you get to the city limits, it'll mention that there's a green belt there. What is the green belt?
Trees? Like they plant trees and which can improves the bio.
Well, it's like a belt that prevents your pants from falling down, right? You can think of it that way, that this belt contains the city. It holds in the city. So the city is not allowed to expand past this green area. It can't get bigger. It can only go up within that fixed space. Are there any other solutions? So some of the solutions we talked about previously for other issues are not going to work here, right? Because we're not talking about pollution, right? We're talking about just the land being destroyed. So another word that might work,
Plantation.
encroachment. This is a pretty high level word. Does anyone know what it means?
Farming. No.
What does encroachment mean in this context? Encroach means you are exceeding your proper boundary and going into a place where you kind of don't belong. In a business, you might say, your department is encroaching on your department is encroaching on our responsibilities or on our area of responsibility. What does that mean there? What does it mean in the highlighted sentence?
Like he worked or did anything in other land, against land.
Yes, you could say he overstepped his boundary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it prevents the green belt prevents the encroachment of the city into green areas. Let's get rid of this. All right. Any other solutions?
Decrease migrating of people from rural areas.
And what was the solution that we mentioned previously that would encourage people to stay in their own areas?
Like the government invest on the in the rural areas, like increase job opportunities, building infrastructure.
That might work. Okay, and what is the flip side of the green belt? So the green belt prevents, what does it prevent? Encroachment. Another way of saying this is green belt prevents urban. What was that word? If someone's lying on the ground because they're drunk, they are
Sparsely?
sprawl. It's another phrase you should use. Urban sprawl means the uncontrollable spreading of things in the horizontal direction. So part of that would be increase the density of cities. Allowing urban sprawl. Let me just put it that way. All right, pretty straightforward, right? Build up instead of out. I'm a little bit reluctant to use this one because it doesn't really solve the problem, because this could be seen to just make other rural areas expand into or encroach onto areas of natural beauty surrounding those rural areas. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm going to delete this one. I think this is enough for a full paragraph. Now, let's talk about the benefits of protecting places of natural beauty. This should be pretty easy. What's one benefit?
The benefits of what?
Oh, well, the first question is, what are the benefits of protecting places of natural beauty?
Okay, reducing CO2 on level of CO2 gas. CO2.
CO2 and produce,
Oxygen.
that's it. Okay, and what else do we need these places of natural beauty for? Who lives in those places, or what lives in those?
Animals keep.
Yeah.
So maintain balanced ecosystem.
Yeah. These are all good phrases. Whoops. Ecosystem.
Ecologic system.
So these are good phrases that you should use. Species diversity, prevent species from going extinct due to loss of habitat. These are all phrases, loss of habitat. So not just habitat, but loss of habitat or habitat loss. Prevent species extinction, prevent animal species from going extinct. We can say that more tightly as prevent species extinction. There we go. Maintain a balanced ecosystem. Okay. Do we have enough for a paragraph for each one? Okay, we need some examples. Trees reduce the levels of CO2 and produce oxygen. So I mentioned Amazon.
Amazon.
Amazon equals lungs of the earth. Now, what is happening to the Amazon? Swath is a good word that goes together with land. Huge swath of land, huge swath of forest, huge swath of rainforest. And what do you call it when they just chop down all the trees and don't replace them with anything?
Dissertation.
Well, that's if they turn into
Okay.
desert.
Okay. The
Clear cut can be two words. It's, I think I looked this one up a couple days ago, whether it's two words or one word. Yep, oh, the dictionary says it's one word. Okay, sorry, Microsoft, you're wrong. Clear cut every year. And what happens? CO2 levels keep rising every year.
yeah, and it's a principal reason for the global warming.
Yes. Okay, good. So that's a very strong example. And then remember, when you put in examples, how should you phrase these examples? Just for better topic development. Okay, according to a research report, you should name the publisher and include the date. And then just make up the statistic. As long as it's not cuckoo crazy, it's fantastic, it's fine. Oh, geez. Okay, so does anyone want to guess how many acres are cut down every year? I'll just give you the real data.
40, I think. Right.
80 million acres per year. It says 150 acres per minute. Can you believe that? 150 acres every minute of every day. 20% of the Amazon. Oh, okay, I should have just put that. 20 million acres, whatever is easier for you to remember. 20,000 square miles.
Why they do cut Amazon every year?
Population increase and farming. Don't mention the farming because actually you could. You could, because the farming is to feed the rising population, right? So even if it's, you can think about two factors. You can think about the physical encroachment. So as the city expands, green spaces are cut down to make way for housing. But you can also think of it this way. The increasing population requires more food. So where are they going to grow this food? Well, they just cut down the rainforest and plant crops there. What's one of those big crops that was recently mentioned? I guess it was trending on social media for a while. What kind of oil was it? It was palm oil, right? They cut down the rainforest and put up palm trees because palm oil is in high demand. That's another thing that you can mention.
What is the location of Amazon? What does it locate?
South America.
In Brazil?
Let me just find you a map. Amazon rainforest. I'm just Googling on map. It's a pretty big forest, eh? So this other blurb mentioned that 20% of the Amazon is already gone. You could also mention that many animal species are going extinct because their habitat is being destroyed. Right, that's this part. Okay, we've got more than enough material here. We've got really good examples of the Amazon rainforest, and we've got the example of the green belt for the solution. Let's do a little bit of writing, and I'd just like to have everyone write the introductory paragraph. So let me just talk about the structure very briefly. Our structure for this kind of essay is going to be, you need your introduction, and the introduction is always like this, the context, so just paraphrase the prompt, the first part of the prompt. The prompt says this, so you need to put this in your own words, and it's always the first part of the prompt. That's the formula. Then put your thesis. Now, in terms of the thesis, there's what's known as a very basic thesis, and there's what's known as a full thesis. In high school, college, university classes, you would not use this basic thesis. And the basic thesis would be something like, and there are several solutions the government can implement. We've got that word implement there that you should use. In high school, college, university, you would mention these solutions. I would urge you to put something like, in particular, okay, so you just very briefly list those solutions. In particular, limiting urban expansion and mandating that development be vertical rather than horizontal. Right, so we need more tall buildings to accommodate the growing population instead of more suburbs. Right, remember, suburbs are the areas around the city and they keep growing, 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 growing. There's no limit to how big they can grow. Okay, so we want to preventing urban sprawl. The basic solution, just saying there are several solutions the government can implement, that is a thesis format that is recommended by writing examiners that work for IELTS. And the reason they recommend this kind of basic format is because when you look at the rubric, practically all the marks that you get for development are in the body paragraphs. There's no topic development in the introduction. That's not the purpose of an introduction. The purpose of an introductory paragraph, and this is true for the rest of your life, by the way, it's just to give the context of the topic and to give the main point, which is known as the thesis. What's your main argument? That's why examiners suggest using this kind of basic thesis. You can do that. Just keep in mind that in the real world, you would want to very briefly summarize what those solutions are. You would also want to very briefly summarize what are the benefits of protecting these places. So just for this writing assignment for right now, I'd like you to briefly summarize both aspects, okay? So don't just use the very basic thesis. that's just something that you can memorize and that you can implement on your own. You don't really need my feedback on that. Write a full thesis. Okay, and just put it in the chat. And I'll share this document with you right away. Okay, there we go.
We
So
write a whole thesis.
So you're writing the intro paragraph. You're going to paraphrase the context and write a full thesis.
Okay, sure.
Okay, let's check them out. Dina. Increasing the number of people. That makes it sound like this is something that people are doing deliberately.
Growing number of population.
We can't say the growing number of population. We can just say the growing population. Population and develop. Okay, the growing population and development of more urban areas have led to the, so you wrote extinction of several green beautiful lands, but extinction, we talk about extinction of species, but extinction doesn't really go together with lands.
Disappearance.
Disappearance, that's in the original.
Yeah.
What's another synonym? Also starts with D.
Destroying.
Yeah. What's the noun form?
Destruction.
Yeah. have led to the destruction of green, beautiful lands. I like it, but doesn't sound very, it doesn't sound right. This one's tricky. This always gives people problems, many places of natural beauty.
Yes, how we can paraphrase it.
Right. So many places, I would just say areas of,
Beautiful
I have a hard time.
lands.
This is not easy. Destruction of, let's leave it as areas of natural beauty, or many areas, large areas of natural beauty, the destruction of vast natural landscapes, not landscapes, landscapes. Okay. Large areas of natural beauty, vast areas of natural beauty. That's a word I don't see people using. Vast is a good synonym for large, very large. Is to maintain a
balanced ecosystem.
yes. So here we've got a participle. Ecosystem that is balanced. Okay, good. Nowadays, the constant urbanization. It's not really constant urbanization. It's, in the question, it says expanding urban centers. So I would put that as increasing levels of urbanization. Increasing levels of urbanization and not people density. What's
the constant increasing? Yeah.
Nowadays, increasing levels of urbanization and population density. So we don't need this part.
Yeah. And urbanization and increasing population, or increase?
Well, you already have increasing. Increasing is, we use increasing when it's a process that's ongoing.
Yeah.
It's not stopping. And
population density are the main
because
causes of the disappearance.
Yeah.
The overall protection of these natural places will maintain the balanced.
A balanced ecosystem and species diversity. We can also paraphrase places of natural beauty as natural habitats. That would work too.
Okay.
The disappearance of many natural places, many natural habitats. You know what? Green spaces. Sorry, it's still early. Coffee hasn't fully kicked in. Okay, my internal, what do you call that thing? Oh yes, thesaurus dictionary. My internal thesaurus is finally waking up. Okay, just green spaces. Natural habitats, green spaces,
and the diversity.
At the same time, solutions for this issue. So you've got the solutions.
Include.
That's right. It's not this issue includes, it's the solutions include.
He, she, it. Yeah, include.
Good. Include preventing trees cutting. You don't structure it that way. The cutting of trees, but I would say the clear cutting of trees.
Sorry, Mr. Len. We have to address how to solve the problem of rising population also. So, for example, birth control or this.
Solutions
Or-
for this issue include running and building tall towers instead of. Okay, and let's just fix this one. And building. So we don't say building small houses in a horizontal way. Let's make this a little bit more general. And preventing the clear cutting of trees and urban sprawl. See, this clear cutting of trees doesn't really. Okay. Let's see how this goes, but really preventing urban sprawl is really the solution. Forcing cities to... maybe this is too much detail for the intro. I would just leave it at this. Preventing clear cutting of trees and urban sprawl.
Urban. Yeah.
And then you can get into this in the body paragraphs. Right. Okay, we've got Safas. People living in urban centers cause degradation of natural beauty. This needs to be more specific. Degradation of natural beauty. That could be inside the city, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it needs to be more specifically connected to the prompt.
Okay. Actually, I start mentioning I explained the problem down. Should I put it up, like changing?
Let's just change it to this.
Natural habitats. Okay.
I wouldn't put this.
Because it's not included in the prompt.
It's just, it doesn't add any value. Archaeologists are also people who look for ancient artifacts.
Yeah. Historical places and all this stuff, right?
Yeah, so that's off topic if you put that. Natural habitats. Generally speaking, the problem mainly is the demolition of landscape for the purpose of building high-rise residential towers in their place. Okay, so you don't really demolish a landscape. You can demolish a building. You know, we hired a demolition company to knock down the old building.
Okay, like degradation.
Degradation.
Of landscape.
Yes, the degradation or the destruction.
Or destroy.
Destruction of landscapes. Destruction of natural landscapes for the purpose of building. Well, it's not specific to high-rise residential towers. It could just be urban sprawl.
Mm-hmm.
For the purpose of building residential areas.
Okay.
And the solution we're going to talk about is, instead of allowing sprawl, because in many American cities, that was the problem, that these cities just stretch out and out and out. They're absolutely enormous in terms of their footprint. It's because everyone wants to live in a monster home and have a huge yard and a swimming pool, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that is the American dream. Mainly is the destruction of natural landscapes for the purpose of building residential areas in their place. Best solution lies in enacting environmental protection laws that prevent the destruction of natural areas. Yes, but that's not a, that's, is this the solution that you're going to be talking about in the body paragraph?
Yes, like if there was any license to build any big building or something, you need to make sure this is not harm like any park areas or something like this.
Okay. Okay, so that'll depend on what you put in the body paragraphs, but that sounds fine. I'll have to see what it looks like in the final version. Okay, so we've got our outline format here. And here's the content. Squish it down a little bit. Let's transform this into paragraphs. Okay, let me just ask people to do this in order. Dina, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, you can use either these sentence skeletons that I have here, or you can produce your own if you've got something better. Okay, so we're going to start with the first body paragraph, our topic sentence. Okay, so can you get us started?
Yeah, the first topic sentence will be for the first paragraph. The main benefit or the main advantage
Okay.
of keeping natural beauty, lands,
Mm-hmm. We're going to call it natural habitats.
or natural habitat, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Here, maybe for this concept, we say the main it will be for the environment or
So we talked about two, right?
yeah. Maybe
Main-
it's to reduce the level of CO2.
Okay.
Direct and produce oxygen. Or if we can say it's the main benefit will be for the environment, and then maybe we will, in the following sentence, we'll explain about level of CO2.
CO2. The other one we talked about is species diversity, right?
Yeah, species diversity.
So, okay. Tell me about reducing levels of CO2.
This maybe this means that, or that is to say,
So this is our topic sentence, right? I'm going to put topic and reason together because that's what we've got here, and that's usually how it works. Topic and the main advantages of maintaining natural habitats are reducing levels of CO2 and preserving species diversity. Okay, so let's start with reducing levels of CO2.
this is as a natural phenomena. The plants usually absorb CO2 and release O2.
Oxygen.
which
Which-
is advantageous to the
preserving life,
Hmm.
which is critical for preserving life on the planet. Okay. Okay, let's talk about the Amazon. Wow. So we've got all this stuff, right?
Where is it?
Let's change this into sentences. For example, tell me about the Amazon rainforest.
Yeah, we can. According to our research report published by
Mhm. Amazon rainforest, and why is it important? Which is known as
lungs, the lungs of the earth,
mhm,
lungs of the earth.
for example, the Amazon rainforest, which is known as the lungs of the earth. What happens there? Or, you know what, huge swaths, it's known as huge, so we got huge swaths of the Amazon rainforest are cut down every year, right? There's no cut it, it's just cut. Three versions.
Cut, yes. Are cut down every year. But how we know the consequence? What is the consequences of this one? What have led?
CO2 levels keep rising every year. Okay. We'll do this.
Maybe according to environmentalists, this is one of the reasons why CO2 level is rising.
So we'll say, as a result, according to, can you give me an environmental organization? What's like the biggest, most famous environmental organization?
WHO or UN?
World Health Organization, or I would say Greenpeace. Greenpeace is a famous one. As a result, according to Greenpeace, what is true? Or according to the United Nations, what's the Environmental Protection Agency of the United Nations? Greenpeace.
The level of CO2 is rising every year. We have no clue how, like any accurate percent. Keep rising every year.
And have reached the highest levels recorded in, say, thousands of years. Or in thousands of years. So what? Okay, climate change, global warming.
Yeah. This has negative impacts on the environment.
Okay. Moles of CO2. So it's not just reducing, okay, yeah, reducing CO2, preserving species diversity is critical for preserving life on the planet and maintaining a balanced
ecosystem.
Well, let's say environment and balanced environment. So I'm not the biggest fan of this phrase, but so let's not talk about species diversity because it's getting too big. Right? We ran into that problem before where we tried to fit too many ideas into here and it resulted in a massively oversized essay.
Yeah, I think better one idea and we can put all trees on it.
Main advantage of maintaining natural habitats is reducing levels of CO2. Plants absorb CO2 and release oxygen, which is critical for preserving life on the planet and maintaining a balanced environment. And instead of this, preventing climate change. For example, huge swaths of the Amazon rainforest cut down every year. They're cut every year to make way for living space and for farms to feed the growing population. Good. So what? As a result, according to Greenpeace, we don't need this. We've already got Harvard. As a result, CO2 levels keep rising every year and have reached the highest levels recorded in thousands of years. This contributes
to global warming or
there we go.
change.
Yes. This contributes to global warming and threatens the survival of our species. And we get rid of the rest. But how long is this? It's 132, let's say minus 5 to 10 words. So this is a perfect length. Okay, if we tried to fit all that information that we have in, see what happens. It's already 120 something words. We're only aiming for 250 to 300. So there's no advantage of developing this any further. That's enough. Now let's move on to our second body paragraph. Safa, go ahead.
Yes.
Let me just see something here. So we've already got that here. We've already, oops, sorry, I'm just jumping around a bit. So we've already got this. Yeah, boom. Here's how can this problem be solved. This is what we're putting into here.
Okay. Where did the suggestion of solution?
Here.
Oh yeah. How can the problem solve? Okay. Rising population and constantly expanding urban centers.
So these are the two problems that are listed in the prompt, and our solution has to address these problems.
Okay. First of all, green belt prevent the encroachment of the city, and the second thing, increase the density of cities built up in a state of the following. Okay, so I will start with in terms of the solution. The government need to encourage.
Can you use a stronger word like just prevent?
Yeah, need to prevent. need to prevent green belt, or sorry, need to prevent the encroachment of the city.
So we'll call it urban sprawl, because that's really that's the key solution, just preventing urban sprawl, and that basically solves the problem, right?
Okay, but by prevent the urban sprawl, we will not like stop the urbanization.
Well, urban sprawl means the spreading. It doesn't mean urbanization, just means the uncontrolled spreading. So that's the function of the green belt. It's to keep the city in a fixed size.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, the city can keep growing, but it has to grow up instead of out.
Okay.
Like it stays in the same footprint, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And you can see that happening in Toronto all the time, where someone will knock down 2 houses and put up like 5 row houses. So the density keeps increasing, right? Or they'll knock down like 6 detached homes and put up an apartment building.
Yeah, actually, always I ask my husband why Canada is a very big country. Why all the flats and apartments is very small, 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 and vertically instead of the wide houses. Now I get the point. Okay. In terms of the solution, the government need to prevent urban sprawl of the city.
Mm-hmm. So we don't need to say of the city because urban refers to city.
Okay, urban sprawl.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, no, we could. A period after that, I will start talking about the reason. And this would
Let's say
degradation of the green areas.
limit degradation of green areas. Degradation of green areas, okay.
And however, increase the density of the cities.
And allow the density of cities to increase to accommodate the growing population. Okay, now let's talk about the green belt. For example, in Ontario, Ala, go ahead.
Yes. So the example, for example, in Ontario, or for example, the Ontario's government builded or implemented a green belt around the city in 2012.
So let's say Toronto, because the examiner, you don't know where they are in the world, so they might not know which city you're referring to, and Ontario is a province, so we'll say a green belt around Toronto.
Yes, around Toronto, planted a green belt around Toronto, which limits the urban sprawl.
What's a synonym for sprawl? So we've said sprawl. What else can we?
Which prevents.
Limits, prevents what?
Expansion.
Good.
of the city. Okay. City.
Okay.
Okay.
And okay, and we can use this. Someone has a kitty cat.
It's me.
That sounds adorable. Toronto, which limits the expansion of the city and prevents encroachment of the city into green areas. Okay. Okay. And what does this cause developers to do?
So this is this is has led to building in a vertical way.
Building. Let's just say building high rises.
Yes.
When possible, this advice might be helpful for you if you write something that your reader cannot visualize. Try and rephrase it in a way that they can visualize. So building in a vertical way. If you said that to a kid, would they have any idea what you're talking about?
No.
No, but they can picture building high rises, right?
Yes.
Right, so it's always better to write in a way that people can visualize. This has led to building high rises instead of
small houses. Or...
Yep. And if you're looking through real estate listings, what do you call these small houses, like where it's one house, one house, one house? What do we call those?
A ground house or compounds?
We call them
Town.
detached.
Detached houses.
Yeah, detached houses, detached homes. Detached, we can say single family homes. Yeah, if you're looking through real estate
listings. You can't say ground homes?
No. No.
Okay.
If you look through real estate listings, detached are single family homes. Then you might have semi-detached, which are like two homes stuck together. Right? But detached are what most people think of. You've got detached, semi-detached, then you've got row houses or townhouses, high rises instead of detached single family homes. Yeah. And as a result, the population continues to expand, but not at the cost of the destruction of green areas that surround the city. This is a good phrase, not at the cost of. Right? What does that mean?
It means they are not taking the cost of the green of the trees and other things.
Yeah, we don't have to pay for it by destroying our forest. Okay. This is a little bit short. Maybe you want one more sentence. This solution, what can we say about this for our significant statement?
Okay, this solution would decreases the disappearance of the green space of the green places.
Yeah, or prevents. Of natural habitats. The disappearance of green spaces and natural habitats. Okay, and what can we say to connect it to the first paragraph? Spaces and natural habitats. Okay, maybe even this is a little bit redundant. Maybe it's fine without this. Green areas that surround soil. Thus, the solution, the green belt solution prevents the disappearance of green spaces and natural habitats as a result of what? Due to uncontrolled urban expansion. Uncontrolled urban expansion is a synonym for urban sprawl. Okay, I think we're okay for length. Then you just need your intro, and the conclusion is simply to summarize your thesis statement and your main reasons. Okay, so last thing I'm going to do we've all got all those ideas. So we've done the development. Now you need to edit. Remember, for the editing process, what are the key things to keep in mind? Read aloud. Your grammar is largely auditory. You have to engage your ears. Look for your top grammar issue. So for example, the first time you edit, you might look for sentence fragments. The second time you read through, you might look for run-on sentences. Start with the big issues first. Don't just start looking for verb tense issues, because verb tense issue is not as big a problem as a run-on sentence or a fragment. I would even say participle endings. So let's just broadly call this conjugation issues. So don't try and find all three of these problems at the same time. Look for one at a time. It's just like when you're learning to drive. You know, first things first, you figure out how to use the gas and the brake, and then it's the steering wheel, and then it's looking in the mirrors. It's really hard to do all of these things all at once when you're just getting started driving. These processes start to become automatic the more and more experience you get with them, until you can do all of them automatically and then play with the radio, talk to the person sitting next to you, think about your day, right? But first, you have to do one thing at a time until all of this becomes automatic. So later on, when you're more experienced, you can look for multiple issues at once, but for now, one thing at a time. Okay, so in terms of our kind of Ben Franklin process, we're going to turn this into a point form outline. And you can use this to write main advantage of maintaining natural habitats, equals reduce levels of CO2. So I'm getting rid of all of the transitional structural grammar language because this is what people have the most trouble with. Critical for preserving life on the planet, preserving life, preventing climate change. Example, huge swaths of, notice I'm also getting rid of the articles. Okay, so key vocab, natural habitats, climate change, swaths, Amazon rainforest, clear cut, global warming, threatens survival, urban sprawl, limit degradation, increase. Accommodate is a really good word. Accommodate growing population. Implemented. Limits the expansion of the city. Encroachment, that's a very sophisticated word. What does encroachment mean again? What does encroachment mean again? Allah?
Like overstep?
Overstep, go into an area where you don't belong or which is somebody else's responsibility or area. To expand.
That you do it illegal?
Often it is illegal, but it's more neutral than that. It just means this is my department.
Beyond your right, beyond your
beyond the proper thing that you're supposed to be doing. outside of your proper area.
Or
So
beyond
it's
your
called-
limit.
Yes, beyond your proper limit. Population continues to expand, but not at the cost of certain areas around the city. Good, okay. Okay, I will leave you with that for today. Okay, so you've got this already. If you want to start writing right now, here's the link. It should work right now. Okay, so this is due Monday by noon, and then I'll check it early in the day, and the revision is due Tuesday by noon. Okay. Any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, in that case, have a wonderful day. It's pretty hot outside, so enjoy the weather.